my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my Spring 2026 TBR. So I talked about this in my last video a little bit, but I haven't had a ton of time to read recently. Like, a majority of my attention has been on my other hobbies and just other things. But now it's spring and I do want to make more time for it, so it's time to set a short, reasonable TBR. That being said, we are starting off this TBR with a readathon, because the Trans Rights Readathon is back and running from the 17th to the 31st of March. I will have their links down below in the description along with the organization that I will be donating to this year. But yeah, I am trying to get bingo here, and I am using the recommendations because they've made a lot of posts that are really helpful when it comes to TBR building. Last year for this readathon, I read a physical book, an audiobook, and a graphic novel, and that worked out pretty well, so we're gonna do something similar this year. Starting off with Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer, and Indigenous Gender Expansive Representation. Starting off with a Two-Spirit Journey by Mani Shikabe with Mary Louisa Plummer. I saw this during the readathon last year. I was interested in it then. It is a memoir, my first of the year actually. I know this one talks about some really emotional and dark topics, so I don't necessarily anticipate an easy read here by any means. But I do suspect that it is going to be one that is going to leave an impact on me, and that I will be grateful to the author for sharing. And then we have a book about trans plus youth, or that imagines trans futures, and for that I will be reading Boys from the Riot by Keito Gaku. Specifically volume 3, because I read the first 2 volumes not for this readathon but at some point last year, and this feels like a great opportunity to just get back into it. One of my favorite things about this series is just reading and seeing these characters go after their dreams. I find it really inspiring from an artistic standpoint, and they're also just super easy to root for. And something else that I love about this series is that they often maneuver and exist in ways that are despite of and in spite of all of the hate around them. I'll also probably end up reading more of this series either during this readathon or at some point during the spring and summer, and I am really looking forward to it. And finally, for this readathon, we have a trans plus book featuring joy/love/resistance, and for this I am going with Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This has been on my TBR for such a long time now, but my excitement about it has never waned. Like, it has such 5 stars, such book of the year potential for me. From the romance to the way that it incorporates music and fantasy and science fiction. I actually drafted 2 versions of this TBR that would get me bingo for this readathon. This was on both of them, so it feels meant to be, and I do think that I am going to have a really incredible readathon just all around. And now for the rest of spring outside of March, I do have a few ongoing reads from winter that will probably still be around, like my reread of Legendborn and my eventual reread of its sequel Bloodmark. I'm also reading The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke and Delicious in Dungeon right now, and these are all things that I do plan to continue, but I also want to add a couple of new, fresh things as well. Starting with A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. And this follows our main character who supports her mother and 2 younger sisters through being a con artist. As a gifted art forger, she is able to paint the future, but even magic is not going to be enough to put her family back together and keep the gangsters demanding payment for her mother's gambling debts away. With little option left, she agrees to a marriage contract with a mysterious dragon lord after he offers her family a fresh start and answers about the disappearance of her father, in exchange for living with him in a desolate undersea palace and assisting him in infiltrating the Dragon King's inner circle. It's described as Beauty and the Beast meets Six of Crows, which sounds incredible, and Elizabeth Lim is one of my favorite authors of all time. And I think she writes really beautiful, atmospheric, magical fantasy stories. The Six Crimson Cranes duology is one of my favorite series that I have ever read. I also really loved its prequel, Her Radiant Curse. And I like the Blood of Stars duology as well. I tend to read Elizabeth Lim books around like warm weather, so I do kind of directly connect Elizabeth Lim with like spring and summer in my head, and I think I am really going to love this book. It sounds incredible. And then we have The Proposal by Sonora Reyes, and this follows our main character who has purposefully never been in love before. However, he is coming to learn that the reasons why may be because of his fears of looking inward, whether that be his sexuality or his anxiety surrounding being undocumented in an increasingly hostile environment. Which brings us to his roommate and best friend, who is stuck in a relationship with a woman who wants him to ditch our main character and marry her. And when she forces that decision on him, he breaks up with her, and when our main character loses a job that promised to sponsor his work visa, his roommate asks him to marry him, but neither of them are prepared for the very real feelings that begin to stir up. This book is also written by one of my favorite authors. I gave both The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School and the Luis Ortega Survival Club 5 out of 5 stars. I love and adore them both so much, and those are both 2 books that took me on like really emotional roller coasters. And I suspect that may happen here again based on the description, both in terms of the topics that are going to be included and also just romance angst. Which, speaking of, I am very much looking forward to Best Friends to Lovers. It's one of my favorite things to read. I need more of it in my life. And yeah, I have no reason to think that I am not going to absolutely love this. And finally, we have Kimi ni Todoke From Me to You by Karu Hoshina. And this follows our main character who has always had trouble fitting in due to her horror movie-like appearance. However, everything begins to change when she befriends the most popular boy in her class. This is part of my 2026 manga TBR, and I said in that video that I wanted this year to be the year that I finally finished this series. And kind of like what I said about Elizabeth Lim books, my brain does also directly connect this series to warm weather, and I will be starting at volume 19 of this series. I'm excited to see the characters again. I love the relationships, both the romance and the friendships here. I think it's really cute, fun, and relaxing with like a good mix of angst and drama as well. And 11 volumes does sound like a lot, but I also know just how fast this series feels like it flies by once I get into it, so I am very excited for this. Okay, so there are of course a couple of other things that I do have my eye on right now, but for now, that is going to be everything that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!